All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order and announce that at 7 o'clock, and announce that a quorum is present. I'm going to start off with our invocations. Councilwoman Sonia Wallace.
Dear Heavenly Father, we gather here today in your presence, Lord. We give you all honor, praise, and glory. We thank you for this time. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to conduct this business here today. Give us all peace of mind with whatever decisions that are made here today. Father, we thank you for just keeping us close in this time, this tumultuous time, God. We thank you for each and every day and each and every breath that we are given. We don't take it for granted. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Public comments. Non-agenda item public comments. White card comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda related topics for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Agenda items public comments, which is the yellow card. Comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda and agenda items combined for a length of time not to exceed 5 minutes total per person on all items except for public hearings. Comments on public hearings items must be made when an item comes before the council and not to exceed 2 minutes per person. No action or discussion may be taken by the city council during the public comments on non-agenda items. To address the city council, please complete the white or yellow card and present it to the city secretary or designee prior to the meeting. Public hearing number 1. Okay, let me read this. Okay, let's still read it out. Okay, so no public comments for number 1. Right, the whole thing. Okay. Second and final public hearing, conduct a public hearing on an ordinance of the city of Maynard, Texas, annexing 1.222 acres, more or less, being located in Travis County, Texas, and adjacent and contiguous to the city limits, making findings of fact, providing a severability clause, an effective date, providing for open meetings, and other related matters. There are no public comments, right? So,
I just didn't know if you had any questions or needed background on it.
questions?
I had a question. Is this annexing part, does that align with our comprehensive plan? It was the only one I didn't see that had an attachment.
It's not out of line, and the comp plan doesn't, to my knowledge, necessarily speak to sort of an annexation plan. This is just sort of a remainder track in between two much larger properties that just on surveys labeled as county right of way. And so the properties, they want to have a cross connection of access drives and utilities. And with it being designated city right of way, we would have the authority to, through a license agreement, permit that cross access and then have utilities cross it without delaying the developments with county approvals.
So both sides will benefit from it, but then we also, as the city, would benefit from it. Like, right? Is that what you're? The connections.
Yes, yeah, it's being requested. The city initiated it, but the properties are the ones who are benefiting the most from it. I mean, it would become city right of way, and so there might be maintenance in there, but the properties are able to have cross connections, which is the larger property on the left, the landmark one. It'll be safer for them if they're with the cross connection because it'll get over into the other development where they can get to the light at Bodark and 290 versus having to just exit onto 290 and try to cut across to then U-turn if they wanted to go west. So having the internal cross connections makes it safer for there's about to be proposed to be 600 apartments there in 2 phases. So they have all their zoning entitlements, so they're working through their site plans. So for those future residents, it helps them get out of their development safer.
Did you say something about utilities going under?
Yes, there's also that too. With the way the wastewater is, everything flows to the south towards like Bell Farms and Carriage Hills, where there's lift stations and force mains that take it back over to the Wilbarger plant. And so the larger track, the one on the right, is planning to put, I believe, a 15-inch wastewater line that connects down to the Carriage Hills lift station. And then to facilitate the commercial that's on 290 on the left track, it's easier for them to connect into the wastewater system that the larger tract is putting in versus having to run all the way through the apartments, which is also better for the city if they're able to accomplish that, because it would prevent a really long public line that runs through the apartment complex that the city would have to maintain. So if they can work it out, they are still working between one another, but it's a lot more economic for them and for the city if they're able to connect their wastewater systems together.
Council members, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 1.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Sonia Wallace. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Councilman Antoine, so you're pushing it to talk. Second by Councilwoman Abasquale. All in favor? Motion passes. Public hearing, item number 2, conduct a public hearing on ordinance rezoning 1 lot on 4.475 acres, more or less, and being located at 16011 East US Highway 290, Maynard, Texas, from agricultural to C3 heavy commercial. Applicant Fantastic Endeavor LLC. We have a speaker, presenter. You're Jeremy?
That's me.
All right.
What you guys doing? Appreciate the time, and I don't want to take up a lot of your time. Just kind of walk through it. We're proposing 4.48 acres to rezone from agriculture to commercial. So this slide right here just kind of shows the area or the tract that we're looking at, located in what's kind of known as the Bluebonnet area here in Maynard, Texas. The star is representative of where the tract is, and then the red dot is currently where we're at this evening. Again, we're just simple request for zoning, rezoning from agriculture to commercial, C3 heavy commercial usage, direct frontage on major highways, which we have a direct frontage to 290. We are along the commercial corridor for the master plan here in Maynard, future land use map, I'm sorry. This category consists of non-residential land uses that meet the needs of both local and residential or regional residents. So we are along this commercial corridor, again, proposing for C3 zoning. What we plan on coming in here, our client is National Equipment Dealers. They have over 30 years of industry experience in equipment, sales, rentals, and customer support. They have approximately 20 to 30 employees at this site particularly, and they offer a variety of services, including equipment rentals, sales of equipment, parts, and customer support. So heavy equipment rental, they'll have some stuff in the back that they're working on. They'll bring into the bays whenever they're doing that. But they'll basically rent them out and also sell that heavy equipment. Elevation drawing of what's kind of this isn't this exact site, but what they've done, and I believe that one's in Atlanta, Georgia. But the building plan they're working on is very similar to what they have here. Brick in the front, a metal building. And then the side bays, they'll be along the side. So the front is that you saw on this slide is what you'll see as you're passing through 290. And then as you go to the side, you'll see the bays on the sides. So we went to P&Z last week, and staff recommended some prohibitive uses of C3, and then P&Z added some additional uses. We are very okay with staff's recommendation of the adult-oriented business being excluded from the C3. We definitely don't want that one. The data center, light industrial, office warehouse, product development services, research services. We kind of questioned those. We were just curious, like, it didn't kind of make sense to us, but if it makes sense to you guys as a council, we understand and we're okay with that. We're not going to bring in a truck stop. We're not bringing in vehicle storage facilities. And I'm not talking about the current usage of this. I'm talking about 5 to 10 years when these guys get ready to sell. We would have to come back through this process. So basically data center through research services, we were kind of questioning those, see if we could. We definitely respect Scott's opinion on those, so if that doesn't work out, that's fine. Then we come to P&Z, and then they added some additional things that they wanted excluded. We're way okay with no gas stations. We understand nobody in Mena wants a gas station right now. We don't want a gas station right there, so we're okay with taking out the gas station. But then it came down to alcoholic beverages, brewery, brew pub, distillery, micro, regional, and liquor stores. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not here to sell you on alcohol, but we just did not understand those because the type of building that is, if somebody wanted to come in later on and bring in a brewery, we thought that building would be a really good site for that with the bay doors and everything. Again, my request is if you guys could reconsider some of those and add them back in. If not, I get it. I have to help my client out. We walked away kind of confused, and so that's what we're after today is if you guys wouldn't mind bringing those back in. And here's some kind of the definitions of usage. Just we want to bring those straight out of the zoning in case you guys had questions over any of those. But that's about it. If you guys had any questions for me.
Questions, council?
I have one. What brought you to that location specifically for I guess the company? What brought that company to that specific location, especially off of 290,
Sure.
knowing that it was going to be moving the type of equipment that it is?
So commercial use corridor, cheap land. It was cheaper. And then it's also between here and Elgin, not too far from Taylor, and all the construction that's going on, development in this area. They feel like that's a great location for them to come in and help out these contractors.
Are you also the same company out of Houston, or is that a different?
Kimley Horn, or
No, National Equipment.
they might have a location in Houston. They're mainly based out of Florida, but they are opening up 82 stores in the Texas area within this next year.
So they would be the only one kind of near here.
To my knowledge, yes. When I first started with Kimley Horn about 10 years ago, JCB, if you remember, came in. They were along 290 at one point. They came in, they sold out. They're located along 35 right now, but JCB would be the only close one that I'm aware of that's in this area, and they did the research to make sure that they were. So to my knowledge, yes.
So that would be some pretty good tax revenue for the city.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And they pay between, I believe it was $60,000 to $75,000 a year for their employees. And yes,
Would
ma'am.
they be bringing their own employees or would they be hiring local people?
To my knowledge, local people. I'm sure they would bring in some management staff from other locations that have known the business, but local people for staffing.
Are there any schools, daycares, churches close to this location? I thought so.
Being in the commercial corridor, we don't anticipate that. But again, if alcohol was to come up, it would be another special use permit. So they would have to come back in for that special use permit. So there would be another hoop that would have
Right.
to be juggled, but part of it.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions, council?
I think I could be okay with the distillery or brewery, just not a liquor store or, we have enough liquor stores here already.
Sure.
We don't have to change that right now, do we? To close.
Thank you. Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. That would be discussions to be held tomorrow when you actually have the item up for review and consideration. So no, you don't need to do anything right now other than ask questions and close the public hearing.
Yeah, if we don't have any more questions, I'll take a motion.
Council members, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 2.
Motion by Councilwoman Sonia Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Councilwoman Ann. All in favor? Any more questions?
Yes. Sorry. Last question was just if there was anyone else from the surrounding area had anything to say about it, but then also for like the future development that was going to be in that space. Like I thought looked like from the picture that he said, even though it was a corridor, that it was also going to be somewhere in the area of more residential spaces. Is that
Most of the surrounding is industrial. Scott, you want to take that one, bro?
Switch. Hands. So there is residential behind it on Volker, which isn't really intended to be commercial. So the lots up front there on 290 are geared more towards commercial uses. There is existing industrial, so across the street is 5F Mechanical. And then next to it, it's not built, but that's general office. And so the C3 designation, the heavy commercial is our most permissive zoning district in the sense that it allows the most uses. And it's a mix between C2 medium commercial and light industrial. And because the future land use map has areas commercial corridor, the recommended uses that were removed for the most part were the ones that leaned more towards the industrial side. So removing those as permitted keeps it closer to a commercial. So it's basically kind of a C2 plus their construction and equipment sales and rental major, which is what they would be. But we can't do it that way, so we do C3 minus uses. So that was the recommendation, and as Jerry mentioned, Planning Commission recommended those alcohol uses and gas stations too. But it's similar. The use is like to ASCO or Anderson Machinery or Texas State Rentals. So, and all of those are on 290.
okay?
Any other questions, council? All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, item number 3, conduct a public hearing on a subdivision concept plan for 325 lots on 113.415 acres more or less, and being located at the intersection of North FM 973 and Old Maynard Taylor Road, Maynard, Texas. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Rachel, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good evening. I'm on behalf of Okra. I just brought together kind of our parkland so you get a general sense. I mean, this is a concept plan, but I know you guys want to see what we're planning for phase 1 and later phases. So overall, just to recap, we're by Shadow Glen. Monarch Ranch is to the north of us. We have some frontage on FM 973, and then Greg Lane goes up, and we are having like a regional trail system connect from Shadow going up to Greg Lane all the way to New Haven. So here's an overview of the entire property. Phase 1 will be the 95 lots on the southern eastern portion. So Vidalia is our collector road, and then Silent Falls Parkway from Shadow Glen is going up. And so our phase 1 includes the detention all the way heading to FM 973. So here's an overview of our parkland again. We have kind of an internal park of around 8 acres that connects to Monarchs Park. And then we have trail systems kind of connecting all of that and then going out to the regional trail system that goes all the way up to New Haven to the north. And we'll have that, 8-foot concrete trail in the floodplain. And then I'm still working through materials because I want something that doesn't run off for the internal parkland stuff. So here's phase 1. This is off of the collector road, and I am grading the detention to be kind of an organic feel. It's not part of our parkland calculation. I just want it to be an enhancement to the project instead of your typical detention that you do see. We'll have 2 playgrounds of different age groups with shade structures over them, a basketball court, pavilion, and water fountains, and then a trail that goes kind of all around that section. So this is phase 1. There's a couple examples of what those will look like over to the right. Here's kind of what I'm working on, as Okra is more of a farm theme, doing a barn for one of the playgrounds, a little tractor that they can ride on, and some sort of vegetable climbing element in the playground. Phase 2 is the dog park, so that is on the north side of the collector road. We will have that crossing the flashing crosswalk connecting from phase 1 parkland to phase 2 parkland, since that is on a collector road. And so the dog park will have water fountains for the dogs, benches and shade structures, and then of course trails to kind of again connect to Monarchs Parkland to the north of us, and then they could take that trail and go all the way down and connect to the regional trail system. This is our third little pocket park. It will have about some parallel parking spots, so you could drive. This is like if you drive way back in the subdivision, western side, you could hit the regional trail, park there. There'll be some benches. There's like a stock pond there now, so we'll just kind of enhance the natural beauty of that and just allow for an additional parkland area on this site. And that's just kind of an overview. Let me know if you have any questions.
We have some of the people that own farmland back there and in around that area that are complaining about the runoff water from the rain and stuff. So your detention pond is going to be where it's going to hold, or it's going to.
It's actually sized significantly more than what we needed, because I knew that that was an issue in Shadow Glen of some flooding. So that was important to make sure that we're sizing that correctly to really handle and not have runoff area. We also have drainage spacing and in between us and Shadow Glen. So there's actually kind of like a 40-foot buffer between us and Shadow, and then Shadow has its own 40-foot buffer. So there's about 80 feet to just help with flow and absorption. And then there's another drainage area. I think it's a 50-foot drainage channel between us and Monarch.
Okay.
So there's a lot of additional kind of to help with the flow and get it off people's properties and drain it, but then also retain it on our property for absorption.
Okay, thank you. And around your detention pond will be like the trail thing you said.
Yes.
Walking.
So it won't go quite all the way around. We're working on grading because, again, I'm trying to make it feel a little bit more natural and not just like heavily graded. But yes, I wanted it to be able to where you kind of come out of your section of the neighborhood, you can pick up a sidewalk and a trail, come down to the park and kind of keep that going. So it's not just like cut off. Just like reach a dead end. So the goal is for like if down at the bottom of the page, like that trail keeps going and that connects to Caldera Way, which is a stub out in Shadow Glen, and you keep going down there, and that connects the regional trail system.
Okay, thank you.
Do we already have the information on how the traffic will be affected with this?
So instead of doing a traffic impact analysis for Okra, we went ahead and worked with TxDOT, Travis County and Manor on improving FM 973. So typically with subdivisions, you'll see small percentages given to various projects and nothing overall is heavily like affected or widened. And so with Okra, we're doing a center lane from Tenahara, I think Monarch's traffic light, all the way down to North Suncrest Loop. So a full center lane on FM 973, and then we're doing a right-hand turn lane into the project. The goal is to help kind of, one, safely people can enter Okra, but then also two, adding that center lane I think will help with a lot of people turning into very other, subdivisions or businesses.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 3.
Motion was made by Sony Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Ann Weir. Any questions to the motion?
Yes. Thank you. Which phase is commercial portion in?
So the commercial portion is getting graded, and like utilities are subbed out to there, and like storm sewers being subbed out to there in phase 1. We're working through a couple ideas on developing that, but it'll be ready with phase 1.
I mean, get a chance to benefit from that. Well, 2 phases or
I mean, that's the goal is kind of, we wanted to get Okra underway. But with it being underway, like having the commercial be within phase one, because otherwise it's not being graded, utilities aren't being subbed out to there, detention's not being handled. And then kind of as Okra's underway, we can really explore more options of what interest there's been in commercial development.
there was one more question, I guess. It was under the engineer review. It was number 5 about the number of LUEs. Does that get, I guess, approved or taken care of later on and before it's done?
The commercial portion?
I guess, oh no, it's just that under the engineer review, it said the proposed number of residential and non-residential lots with the estimated number of LUEs for each category of lots. Keep going. Okay. Category of lots along with traffic volumes to be generated by all proposed development other than single family residential is required to be provided on the concept plan. The traffic count information was not provided for non-residential lots.
Yes, so they provided it. I know it's small. It's also in backup, but the tables that are on this cover sheet here are those traffic count numbers as well as their projected LUEs, which is what our engineers review to make sure that and they've done it before we even got to this stage, to make sure that our wastewater has capacity and we have sufficient water.
Okay, I saw that, and that's but then when I kept seeing that it wasn't crossed off, I didn't know if that was like, oh, this is preliminary and not certain. So
Frequently with the last round of comments, once they submit, the engineers don't go back and cross off all the comments. They just issue the conformance letter. So that probably sounds like it was one of the remaining comments that was satisfied with their last submittal that got them to an approval.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had one more. It was about the request from one of the nearby residents, I think from Shadow Glen. Was there anything that could be done to help them out? I guess I know we can't postpone any development, but or building other construction, but is there any, I don't know, any other compromise out there?
Not too much. And maybe meeting with them to let them know about the 80-foot buffers that are between the developments, because their comments are just generally that they liked the farm and the openness, which is challenging here. A lot of our farms become developments, so that's kind of happens. I don't know how else to explain it. But when you look at like sort of the high level things that were, if it was like this, it's hard to maybe find your house and realize like, oh, there's not going to be someone right behind me. There's sort of a little bit of a buffer, this 80-foot separation. So they would have me provide them some comfort in knowing that if they don't know. And I know they're concerned about the traffic, which is a common theme with every project. But it is compliant with our thoroughfare plan, having Silent Falls continue up and then ultimately going through Monarch, as Rachel mentioned, and connecting to Greg Lane. And it actually keeps going further north through the New Haven subdivision and through KB Home subdivision. So it's important that we make these connections, because as much as the neighborhoods maybe think there's going to be more traffic into them, if you don't do them, then ultimately everyone is just stuck on 973 because that's the only north-south road. And having Silent Falls go through and it goes to the neighborhood, so it's not going to be like the trucks aren't going to use it most likely unless 973 closes down. But local traffic in Monarch and Okra may use it, to get down to 970 or to 290 or to go over to Starbucks or something versus getting on 290 and going through that light and getting on that traffic. So it just helps to have additional multiple connections, to have alternate routes for people.
I'm definitely for that. I'm definitely for that. Whatever keeps us off of 973 helps.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, council? There are any. All in favor? Motion passes. Item number 4, conduct a public hearing on the submission of a specific use permit up to 3,860 square feet of medical office and medical clinic in Maynard Crossing Block A, Lot 7, being 1 acre, more or less, and located at the northwest intersection of FM 973 and US Highway 290, Maynard, Texas.
Sure. So this property, it is different than the one you recently heard. The other 7,500 square feet that was approved was for retail connections in the multi-tenant portion, where they're going to have 4 separate buildings, where like the Burlington, the TJ Maxx, and Five Below are all planned to be. So that property got 7,500 square feet. And so this is another property within the development that's making this request. On their concept plan, they have a restaurant on one side, which is planned to be a Chipotle. On the other side, they're looking to lease to medical offices or medical clinics, and in the amount of 3,860 square feet. Within the building itself, like just on the property, it represents 61% of the building, but overall for the entire development, this one building represents just under 1% of the entire build out of the whole development. And then combined with the 7,500 that was previously approved, still under 3% for the entire build out. I think it's about just under 426,000 square feet of commercial space. And so we're looking at just a little over 11,000 square feet of that would be approved for medical office, medical clinic, like dentists, eye doctors, those types of uses. And the area on our future land use map is considered a community mixed use, which, sorry, it's not in there. It's in the backup though. It is a mix. It leans a little more towards the retail side. I think it's like 50% retail and like 40% office. So just this request is still compliant with the comprehensive plan. Understand like there is a 380 agreement on the property that's contingent upon sales tax. So there's special circumstances here on why you might not want 40% of the development to be office, but when it's still under 3%, it's still not significant. And generally these shopping centers are a mix of these types of uses, so it's not uncommon to have them. So yeah, if you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Any questions, council?
I think one of my questions is it's asking for medical office space, but yet I only see 2 handicap parking spaces.
Yeah, the ADA spaces are based on their overall parking count, not necessarily related to the use. It's at the minimum. So if it was like a user that wanted additional ADA spaces, they can stripe them. There's really, to my understanding, no maximum number of ADA spaces. It's just that's the minimum based on your overall parking. I think it's 1 space for every 25 parking spaces.
Scott, so there's nothing to the, I guess right now, my left of the restaurant if the medical office is on the other side. And so that meets the qualifications that they wanted, like not having another restaurant near them.
I'm gonna assume they've spoken with Chipotle, who's leasing there, that they can have a medical next to them, and it's not going to be disruptive.
Okay. And this concept plan also meets their parking requests that they wanted to have as well.
It should. So that's just part of their overall site development permit plan, and I'm not sure. I could look it up. I'm not doing that. I mean, I could look it up to see, but it would change their parking ratio. It actually would reduce it, because the restaurant is 1 to 100, retail is 1 to 250, and medical is 1 to 300. So yeah, actually putting it on the site plan as medical would reduce the amount of parking that required versus if they called it retail or restaurant.
And is the Chipotle gonna have a drive-through?
I don't believe so.
So that's just one of the things they put on there as a potential request, because they was to have a drive-through option, or they just wanted to leave it open just in case they wanted a drive-through.
Was that on there?
It was in there.
Okay.
It was
Then
one of their requests, but
they may have one. Yeah, sorry. They do have one on the restaurant side. Haven't delved into it too much, but yes, there's one.
Scott, in that Manor Crossing, is there gonna be anything else medical?
Not without your approval. So it would all require a specific use permit.
Proper answer, but you know.
Any more questions, council? Or I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
I have one more question
Yes,
before
ma'am.
I close it, I guess. So with the approving the specific use permit approves their request that they have if they were able to meet it, even if it kind of contradicts what we have for our ordinances or our zoning for it, like you saying with the parking as being one of them, and then what it's adjacent to or what is next to another restaurant or and stuff like that. So with that,
There's nothing in our code that would prevent this layout. Yeah, if medical uses were permitted by right in the zoning, then they could just do this. But since medical uses require a specific use permit in commercial zones, they have to make the request. But yeah, their site layout meets code. I'm sure there's probably a couple reviews on it, but it's pretty compliant.
this isn't one of those medical offices that would require like EMS to come and drop them off. It's because they said like dentistry.
Right. Not likely. The use it does permit, and you could have a 24-hour emergency clinic in there. It'd be very small ones. I don't foresee that, but that use could be permitted. It doesn't permit hospital because it was specifically medical office and medical clinic, which are either like by appointment or walk-in ones. But I think emergencies or clinics might be part of the medical clinic versus the hospital use. But I think
Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 4.
Motion has been made by Councilwoman Sonia Wallace. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Maria. Any questions to the motion? If there are any questions, all in favor? Motion passes. That's it, right? All right. I will now adjourn this meeting at 7:39.